to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference.
Amen. And Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength, and hope with each other, and may solve their common problem and help others recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is the desire to stop drinking. And there are no dues or fees for a membership. We are self-supporting to our own contributions. And AA is not alive to any sect, denomination, politics, organization, or institution, nor wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober, help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. We're going to dispense with the reading of chapter 5 tonight, because we're getting started a little bit late. Tonight we're going to be taking a look at an article that Bill wrote for the Grapevine in 1965, entitled Responsibility is Our Theme, and we find it on page 328. This article was written in 1965, which was the 30th year of AA's existence, and the International Convention was being held in Toronto. The theme of this article is responsibility. Let's go to the second paragraph on page 328. Looking back to the years, we shall be unable to conceive more than a mere fraction of what God has wrought among us. None will be able to imagine the sum of the suffering that was once ours, or the misery borne by those near and dear. Who will really understand the inner nature of our transforming spiritual experience, those gifts of God that open to us a new world of being and doing and living? Indeed, our blessings have been quite beyond any human comprehension. At our international gathering, we shall look into new faces. Many from afar will be heard to speak in other tongues. We shall see that the sun never sets upon AA's fellowship, that 350,000 of us have now recovered from our malady, that we have everywhere begun to transcend those formidable barriers of race, creed, and nationality. This assurance that so many of us have been able to meet our responsibilities for sobriety and for growth and effectiveness in the troubled world where we live will surely fill us with the deepest joy and satisfaction. But as a people who have nearly always learned the hard way, we shall certainly not congratulate ourselves. We shall perceive these assets to be God's gifts, which have been in part matched by an increasing willingness on our part to find and to do His will for us. Bill is here talking about a partnership that we form between ourselves and our higher power. And we do this when we take our third step, and when we use the third step prayer, because we're asking God for all of the help to take us into His arms and to take over and care for us, but we're also committing ourselves at the same time to do our part. Then we shall remember too how the pains of our illness literally drove us to what for most of us was the first responsible act in years, that of joining AA. Alcoholism had literally lashed us to a point of collapse, that we became willing to do whatever was necessary to get well. It was a matter of life or death, and I'm hoping that everyone here can identify with that. Thus propelled, we finally did join the AA fellowship, and there had our first glimpse of a quite new world of understanding and loving concern. Soon we took a look at AA's 12 steps for recovery, but many of us promptly forgot 10 of them, or perhaps not needed. We bought only the concept that we were alcoholics, that attendance at meetings and a helping hand to the newcomers would be sufficient to solve the booze problem and probably all problems. We look with approval on that dear old cliche which says that drinking is but a good man's fault. Once off the grog, life would be as pleasant as eating cherries. By happily warming our hands at the AA fire, all seemed well. And you can see how this article ties in directly with what we were studying tonight in the Big Book. But by degrees, certain dissatisfaction set in. Even with our own group, it was not as wonderful as we had at first supposed. There was perhaps some rock throwing at a scandal or a distressing row over who would become the group's next chair. There were people we simply did not like and others we did admire but failed to give us the attention we thought we deserved. At home we were also shocked. After the pink cloud had departed from the household, things seemed as bad as ever. The old wounds weren't healing at all. Though impressed with our sobriety, the bank nevertheless asked when we were going to pay up. Our boss likewise demanded in firm tones that we get with it. So each of us looked up his sponsor and regaled him with these woes. Our resentments, anxieties, and depressions were definitely caused, we claimed, by our unfortunate circumstances and by the inconsiderate behavior of other people. To our consternation, our sponsor didn't seem impressed either. They had just grinned and said, "Why don't we sit down and take a hard look at AA's 12 steps? Maybe you've been missing a lot. In fact, nearly everything." Thus we began to take our own inventories rather than the other fellows. Getting into the swing of self-examination, we finally began to discover our real responsibilities toward ourselves and toward those around us. Though a tough assignment, it did by degrees get easier. We began to make restitution to those we'd harmed, grudgingly at first, and then more willingly. Little by little, we found that all progress, material or spiritual, consisted of finding out what our responsibilities actually were, and then proceeding to do something about them. These activities began to pay off. We found that we didn't always have to be driven by our own discomforts, as more willingly we picked up the burdens of living and growing. Then, most surprisingly, we discovered that full acceptance and action upon any clear-cut responsibility almost invariably made for true happiness and peace of mind. Moreover, these durable satisfactions were redoubled when we realized that our now better quality of livingness made it possible in meditation to find God's will. At last we discovered that we joyfully wanted to live responsibly. Such has been the course of spiritual unfoldment in AA, our pilgrim's progress, if you like. That's quite eloquent, isn't it? And you see what Bill is describing here is what we have come to call untreated alcoholism. And there are just many, many, many people walking around and living and sharing and going to meetings in these rooms who are sick to death because they're trying to live without alcohol, but they have not done anything to treat their alcoholism. And please notice that what Bill is saying here is that the only treatment we offer is the steps. On the other hand, it is equally so and equally true that when we work the steps, it works. We do recover. We do get better. We no longer are walking around with untreated alcoholism. We do have happiness, joyousness, and freedom. Why in the world would anybody not want that? But so many don't. So many are never properly taught or carefully taught or shepherded through this process. Those of us who have done it know, and those of us who have not yet done it need to know that this is the way we go, this is the way of recovery, and this is the way to have a new life that we've always wanted. I'm going to turn it over to you now, and we're going to share with each other our thoughts about what we just read. And who would like to start?
Well, my name's Tom Alcoholic.
Hey, Tom.
And the thing that caught me was after he wrote on here, page 329, about a third way down, after the pink cloud had departed from the household, things seemed as bad as ever. Well, I thought the pink cloud was made up from a sense that I didn't know Bill used it the first time. And that's what just caught my mind. And that after the pink cloud had left, things seemed as bad as ever. And I see people coming in on that pink cloud in the program, and then reality sets in, and they ain't happy no more. And that's what I can relate.
Thank you, Tom. The use of the term pink cloud is one of the few serious mistakes that Bill made in his writing. The pink cloud was invented by people who don't like to see other people happy.
Okay.
If you take the pink cloud as being some kind of a false sense of well-being, simply as a result of the absence of alcohol, then perhaps we could use that. But unfortunately, pink cloud is used these days in a disparaging way to say, oh, you're on a pink cloud, wait till you crash.
No.
You ain't seen nothing yet, that kind of stuff. I know of one lovely lady here who has things to share about with respect to this particular lady, don't you, Marilyn?
I'm Marilyn, I'm an alcoholic.
I'm Marilyn.
I took my fifth step last night, and when I was sober before, I had like 14 years of sobriety. I remember taking it twice, and I never got the same result from taking the fifth step before because of the way that I had done it. This time I did it by the big book entirely, and the thing that really amazes me to be so different than what I had done before is when I had done it before, I wrote down the name of the person, and then next to it I would write my resentment and what they did to me, and then right on the other side I would write what I did to them. So it ended up like canceling each other out. I could never really get rid of the resentments that I had to them because, well, I did things to them, and I could never look at my character defects because they did things to me. So I had no recovery from my resentments or my character defects by doing it. It was just talking about myself, which is my favorite topic, but it didn't do me any good. So this time I did it where I just wrote down the resentments I had towards people, and that was really fun because I didn't look at myself at all, and so I was just like, they did this, and they did this, and they did this. Then I got to the end and I asked God to remove all those resentments, because resentments are a killer. They're going to lead us to drink, so I had to ask God to remove them no matter what they did. Then since they were removed, then I could look at just what I did. And then I saw the real character defects that I had and the real roots of those character defects, and asked God to remove those through the 6th and 7th step, taking it immediately after the 5th step last time, well, an hour later, as the big book says. And so I woke up this morning thinking I was going to feel good because, you take a drink, you feel good, so you take the steps, you should feel good. I woke up feeling kind of miserable, and I was kind of distraught by the whole thing. And I went to a meeting, and I shared about the relief that the way that I did it what happened to me. And this lady in the meeting, she had like 15, 20 years of sobriety. Afterwards, she came to me and she said, I see that you had relief from this, and would you please help me to do the 4th step properly? And then I got the joy I was looking for, because somebody actually asked me for help. Because one of the things I learned in my fifth step yesterday was I'm always trying to fix everything, God to fix them if they ask for my help. And this was really disturbing to me, and that's what I woke up upset about. Like, I mean, I can't fix everybody. And it was just like still fighting with that because I'd like to tell people what to do, and I did, and I guess I was trying not to let go of this. And then somebody actually asked me for help, so I was like, oh, good God, you're still going to let me tell people what to do. So anyway, so then I was happy. But they have to ask, though, so if anybody wants help.
Just give her permission, she'll tell you exactly what's wrong with you.
No,
So,
but seriously, it was very powerful doing the steps the proper way.
Would you like to share with us what happens to those with 14 years sobriety who end up walking around with untreated alcoholism?
They figure out a good excuse to drink.
Ah.
Yeah, well, you drink, the pain gets too great. You can't stand the pain of having those resentments. You can't stand the pain of having your character defects. The pain gets too great, and so then when something happens, it's like, I use that for an excuse. And alcohol works too. It's covered. It immediately wants you to drink more and more and more. It took me 4.5 years to get back, so I don't want that to happen again. That's why I'm doing the steps right this time.
Good, thank you very much.
Thank you.
What color was that chip?
Oh,